Shangana Gana Sanakya Chaksurun Militam Yana Tashmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Mishtapitam Yada Bhutare Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dharati Swaparandikam Vandeham Sri Guru Siyata Paratam Tash Gurun Vaishnavam Cham Sri Rupam Sagaratam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Samsadevam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shubhishakan Vitam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinubandhu Jigapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Jayatam Shurito Pango Mama Manir Matirgati Matsavasha Parambo Jarada Madana Mohanam Sriman Rasa Rasaram Bamsi Vada Karsan Vineshan Rupagu Gopinata Sri Saram Divyad Brindarani Kopadrumada Srimad Radhagara Shima Shanishto Shri Radha Shida Govindari Prestatavi Seva Manushmarami Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmani Taya Chajigari Taya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Mangaram Bhagavan Vishnu Mangaram Gururajaja Mangaram Panidi Kaksho Manganaya Tanohari Om Narayanaya Vidmahi Vasudevaya Dimahi Tano Vishnu Prachodhyate Om Mahadevi Chavidmahi Vishnu Panicha Dimahi Tano Lakshmi Prachodhyate Mahalakshmi Namastubhyam Namastubhyam Sare Sare Hari Priya Namastubhyam Namastubhyam Dhyarire Tapta Kanchana Govnangi Radha Vindavaneshwari Rishabhana Sute Devi Pranamani Hari Priya Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutare Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Shami Dhanamanimiste Sarasati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesa Sanivadi Paskada Desara Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivastari Gaur Bhaktavindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Well, thanks for your fidelity, Bhakta Brent, as well as Jean. And we've got a few more people on Facebook who haven't appeared in the comments section. I don't blame you. Those of you who didn't tune in today. We had Govinda Dev. Thank you, Govinda Dev. Great talk on Saturday night. Govinda Dev's granddaughter, Maggie, also had a surgery to repair her spleen on her second birthday. We were all happy to hear that that was successful. Such a darling looking girl from the pictures that she sent me. We had a good crowd, according to Sundari Priya, also for Govinda Dev's talk and kirtans last Saturday night, 70 people. Crowds have really, really been big in Salt Lake recently. I can't wait to get there next week to give a talk. Circumstances have arranged it that I haven't been to Salt Lake City probably to give a talk, at least for a month or so. We didn't have any sessions last week because I got back from Los Angeles, a funeral of a dear friend, Monday night, and then it was too much catch up Tuesday and Wednesday. And the previous week I had been up in northern Utah postering for the Festival of Colors coming up in just 8 weeks' time. If you don't have your tickets yet, you can still get them for 15% off between now and February 1st by going to our website, festivalcolorsusa.com. That 15% includes not only admission and colors, but you can buy in advance your hot meals, t-shirts, your colors. Quite a savings when you think about it. And after February 1st, that discount will no longer be available. So we sent out a newsletter to 15,000 people on Saturday, letting them know of the deadline upcoming, and it generated $1,000 worth of tickets thus far. Ticket sales are very robust this early on in the game. So if the weather is good, we expect another crowd of in the vicinity of 20,000 people. And we're already working several hours a day on that, even though we've got 2 months to go. Picking up where we left off, what was it, a couple of weeks ago? We talked about the qualities of Ambarish Maharaj. We've got Manasa Ganga jumping back on. We've got Bhai Bobby, who says she's listening and trying to do arti at the same time. She says she might have to get a second body. Yes. Govinda Dev says, yes, it seems like a very long time since you joined us in Salt Lake, and we look forward to this Saturday. I also. We talked before we broke off or had our gap about the 6 qualities of Ambarish and covered 5 of them heretofore. We talked about the divine vision of Ambarish, how he saw everything in connection with his beloved Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We talked about his intense, unbreakable attachment for Krishna, Rati, his leadership quality, everybody in his kingdom was Krishna consciousness without any exception because they wanted what he had. He embodied the characteristics of Bhakti to such a sweet extent that nobody wanted anything else than just to be like Maharaj, to follow in his footsteps, to get his blessings, to share whatever it was that he had, to partake of that. That was the extent of his leadership. And then humility. He always took advice from the detached, learned Brahmins. He didn't make decisions unilaterally, impulsively, but always after consultation and wise deliberation in connection with the Brahmins. Finally, protection. The Lord considered Maharaj so dear that he gave up his own Sudarshana chakra and ordered the Sudarshana chakra to stay in Ambarish's palace and never leave the environments of his palace. The Lord gave up his own personal weapon in favor of protecting his devotees, just like at Kurukshetra, the Lord had given his personal guarantee, his personal promise that he would not take up any weapons during the warfare. And yet when Arjuna's life was threatened by Bhima, the Lord broke his word. He subordinated himself in the interest of protecting his devotees. Now, similarly, Krishna gave up his own personal weapon in order that Maharaj Ambarish have protection. The Lord considers it's more important to protect his devotees than to keep those implements for his own protection. And therefore it was that the Sudarshana chakra was right there at hand in the palace of Maharaj Ambarish. And when the Atiti came, the uninvited guest who was Durvasa Muni manufactured some dispute, some gripe, some complaint, and overreacted to what he perceived of, and which was not actually an insult on the part of Ambarish, by conjuring up a fire demon and sending it to burn up Maharaj Ambarish. The Sudarshan Chakra could have come from a long distance away in less than a second, but it didn't have to because it was already there right at hand. So that Sudarshan Chakra not only came and provided a buffer between the fire demon and Ambarish, but he destroyed the fire demon in a blink of an eye. Then he started coming after Durvasa Muni himself. And Durvasa Muni, Tada Briduviksha, Sraparesham, Dirdasadidare, Bhiksu Prana Paripsada. For 1 year, Durvasa Muni was running for his life all over in all directions. He went to Brahma Loka, he went to Shiva Loka, he went to Vishnu Loka, and he was Dishu, he was running in all directions, and he was also Bishu, terrified, full of fear from being arrogant and condescending and angry. He went to a state of abject terror and insignificance and humility. And all of this was because of the promise that Krishna always makes. His devotees' protection is more important than his own. When the 4 Kumars in the 3rd canto tried to enter as young boys into the spiritual world, and the gatekeepers, they were just doing their job, Jai and Vijay, prevented the 4 Kumars from entering Vaikuntha. The Kumaras, like Durvasa Muni, became upset and enraged, and they also overreacted by cursing the 2 gatekeepers, Jai and Vijay, to take birth in the mortal world. The curse was a means whereby they would lose their positions in the spiritual world and take a mortal birth again, subject to birth, death, disease, and old age. And Krishna came out from the palace, intervened. He told the Kumaras, don't worry about it, because this was my arrangement. I'm going to come to the material world because of this Kamsa. I've got to deal with him. And as long as I'm going to descend to kill Kamsa, I might as well have some fun. And so these two gatekeepers, according to my prior arrangement, they're also going to come and take 3 births, demons. They will be thinking of me always in the mood of anger. The intensity of anger will be such that they'll never forget me 24 hours a day. Yata Bharanamana Marjastamana Natate Bidam Natate Bhakti Yogana Iti Meshajanam. Narada Muni muses that the intensity of meditation on Krishna through anger is such that he, as a pure devotee who loves Krishna, is a little bit envious. Of course, we don't want to think of Krishna in anger, but nevertheless, those who took birth in the material world as Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, Ravana, Kumbhakarnam, and Sisupal and Dinakashore were always thinking of Krishna 24 hours a day, with the result that when Krishna killed them, they were purified. And after 3 short bursts in the material world and having a good time fighting with Krishna, they were reinstated in their posts of dormant. However, Krishna wanted to, again, as he so often does, emphasize the point that you don't mess with devotees, or you mess with devotees, you mess with Krishna. I heard a story about a bully on the block. He lived on the same street as this young boy. He always used to harass this boy on his way to and from school. He would take his lunch money, push him, shove him. One day the bully appeared on the door. He knocked on the door of this young boy. The boy opened the door, and the bully threatened him right on his own doorstep. The boy said, "Well, I'm not afraid of you anymore." The bully said, "Well, I'm bigger than you. I'm stronger than you. You've never bested me in a shoving match. I always walk away with your money. On what basis are you now saying that you're not worried about me?" And the little boy opened the door further to reveal his big brother standing right there. And the bully said, "Well, okay, I see what you're getting at right now." And he slunk away. But when we've got our big brother, we've got our protector, Krishna, devotees needn't worry about anything. Krishna is always there for them. He's within your heart. He can give you that directions to cause you to avoid danger or to overcome it or to conquer enemies. He's also in the hearts of your enemies, so he can cause them to back down. He can cause your enemies to become your friends and well-wishers. There are unlimited possibilities when you work the Lord into the equation. In the same way that the Lord broke his word in order to protect Arjuna from the onslaught of Bhisma at Kurukshetra, in the same way that the Lord warned the Kumaras not to go around cursing pure devotees, otherwise they would have him to deal with. Yashamritama yasha shabanagara sajapana jigad sahamba badvirasutiti chindam shabahu partikula vitim. When I spoke at the funeral last weekend in Los Angeles, Garden Grove, of my friend Mani, I made a point that both Mani and Nisha are fiercely protective of their kids. Their kids are Vishal and Ritu. Vishal lives nearby. He has 2 kids. He works at Northrop. And Ritu lives in Singapore. And she's a CEO, although she has nothing to do with gambling. She's a CEO of the biggest casino there in Singapore. And she also has 2 kids as well. I've always, since I've known Mani and Nisha for perhaps 40 years, I've noticed a particular ferocity in terms of their protective mood for their kids. Now, of course, everybody feels protective. Everybody feels parental love for their children, their offspring. That's not any news. But Mani and Nisha had a particularly fierce protective attitude towards their kids. I remember one time they came up to the Festival of India, and Vishal sang. He's a very beautiful singer on the harmonium. His wife, Meera, is also a beautiful singer. This was before they had any kids. He sang. They were going to spend 2 days in our guest house, and then something came up, something I thought wasn't that significant, that Vishal had forgotten about, that he had to tend to in Los Angeles. So they'd driven up all day long. Vishal had performed at the Festival of India at the concert, and instead of taking a rest, I mean, they could have at least rested overnight and gone back in the morning, but whatever Vishal's concern was, it was taken as tantamount by Nisha and Mani, and they drove back. They started driving back to Los Angeles at 8 o'clock at night. So there's this fierce, almost unreasonable, that when it came to the well-being, the concerns of their children, it was almost like their normal sobriety, their normal clear-headedness became clouded and affected and influenced by an overwhelming tidal wave of love and affection for their kids. There's nothing they would deny their kids. So when I spoke at Manny's memorial service, I said, this is a quality that Manny and Nisha got from Krishna. It's a reflection. Krishna has that same unreasonable quality about protecting his devotees. He said to the Kumaras that what to speak of you going around cursing my devotees. Krishna states, this is God speaking, Chindamsha Bahu Pratikulavidam. Bahu means arm, Chinda means cut. Krishna says, what to speak of you offending my devotees, if my arm, my own arm, were to do something offensive towards my devotees, I would not hesitate to cut it off. I would not hesitate. That means that Krishna would become so overwhelmed with that spirit of parental affection that normal behavior, normal restraint would go out the window, and he would, without hesitation, cut off his own arm if that arm had been offensive to a pure devotee. This is the principle throughout scripture. This is what you got to get. And if you don't get this, you don't really get anything. All your slokas, all your perfect attendance records, all your tithing is going to go for naught if you don't get it, that the Lord loses himself. He loses his composure. He goes a little bit nuts, hysterical, when his devotees are in imminent danger of bodily harm. He says he'll even cut off his own arm if necessary. Consider the disarray of Krishna. Krishna was driving the chariot of Arjuna, going right, going left, going straight ahead. He wasn't really directly involved in the warfare. He was peripherally involved, obviously. There were arrows flying around him and over him and above him, but he wasn't necessarily the target of the Kauravas' weapons. They wanted to kill Arjuna. Arjuna was the key for them, and so they focused on Arjuna. And Krishna was in harm's way, but not to the extent that Arjuna was, of course. He wasn't a direct combatant. And of course, the code of chivalry in those days was that you would only fight with someone who's fighting with you. You wouldn't go out of your way to try to attack a chariot driver, for instance, who had no weapons in his hand. However, when Bhisma pressed Arjuna on a particular day of the battle and pressed him, cut his bow, cut his string, disabled his chariot. Bhisma was running, just about to give the death stroke to Arjuna. Krishna lost his objectivity. He lost his non-combatant status. He became overwhelmed with concern for his devotee. He looked around feverishly, desperately, to see what he could use as a weapon. He saw a broken chariot wheel there in the dust. He picked up that chariot wheel, and in a state of madness, he rushed at Bhisma, breaking his own promise on the way. Yudhi Taraga Raja Vidumra Vishak Kachacha Ladita Samar Mamani Shitasirera Kavacha Stu Krishna Atma. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who creates everything, who pervades everything, who controls everything, and who himself is not everything, who is part from, aloof from everything. Whatever happens in the material or even the spiritual world doesn't necessarily concern him. It doesn't affect him, only insofar as he allows it. And nothing really, really, really upsets the Lord. Nothing really disturbs his composure, except when his devotees are threatened by opponents, when his devotees are challenged. So consider this the Yudhi Taraga Raja, the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Controller, Yudhi Taraga Raja. He's running towards Bhisma. He's covered with the dust of the battle. Bhisma has been shooting arrows at him as he approaches. He's got wounds on his body from the arrows of Bhisma. His eyes are blazing red with anger. His chadar, his upper cloth, has fallen off of his shoulders, off to the side somewhere. Harimi bahanti bibam gatotoriyam. He's rushing like a lion in a rage, in a fit, in a trance, rushes to kill an elephant. The normal composure, the objectivity, the remoteness, the distance is all gone, dissipated by the fact that his devotee is in danger. Aham bhakta paradini yashatanti shadabhavasharam bhaktir bhaktir janapariya. Going back to the story of Ambarish Maharaj and Durvasa. Durvasa ran to Lord Brahma first, being pursued by the fire weapon, asked Lord Brahma to call it off. Brahma said, it's nothing to do with me. I don't have it in my power to call off Krishna's Sudarshan chakra. He went to Shiva, who had, I think, given the chakra to Lord Krishna in the beginning, figuring that, Shiva, as the original owner of the chakra, could call it off. And Shiva said, it's not my, you didn't offend me. I don't have the power. You have to go to the person who it belongs to. And then Durvasa Muni went to Lord Vishnu and he asked Lord Vishnu, you are the owner of the chakra. Will you please call it off? And Vishnu said, I was the owner of the chakra, but I gave it to my pure devotee. He's the owner of the chakra now. Aham bhakta paradina heshatanti sadabhirgasara bhaktir bhaktir janapriyam. And Vishnu states this principle, which is the most important principle throughout all of the scriptures. Aham bhakta paradina. My devotees supersede me. My devotees' desires trump my desires. Protection of my devotees eclipses my own instincts for self-protection. I have no independence. You're asking me to take a decision apart from Maharaj Ambarish. Maharaj Ambarish was the one that you offended. Now you're asking me to give you forgiveness and to call off the Sudarshan chakra. You're asking me to do that independent of my devotee. But I'm here to tell you, I have no independence. I have independence in just about every other area. I create, maintain, and destroy millions and millions of universes according to my independent will. But when it comes to my devotees, I surrender my independence. I have no independence to call off that Sudarshana chakra. Rather, I am dependent on my devotees. If Ambarish Maharaj wants to forgive you and call off the chakra, that's his call to make. But I'm not going to intervene on your behalf without consulting my devotees. And finally, this little monologue that Lord Vishnu gives to Durvasa Muni, he concludes by saying, Sadhavodiyamayam. The sadhus are in my heart. You've come to me asking that my heart be softened towards you, that from a sense of compassion in my heart, that I relieve you from the suffering and misery and call off the Sudarsana chakra. But you've made a miscalculation because my heart is not mine. It belongs to my devotees. The devotees are in my heart. They own my heart. Sadhavodiyam, sadhav. And why? Why are the devotees? Of course, everybody's son of God, and he has affection for all living beings as parts and parcels. Samaham saru namadveshe ye bhajanti tu mam bhadam adeshu teshu avaktanam. And yet those who render devotional service favorably to the Lord is a friend to them, and they are a friend to him. And so therefore, the reason that the sadhus take first place in the heart of the Lord is that the Lord has first place in the heart of the sadhus. So the Lord is never going to go against his devotees. And Maharaj Ambarish was so qualified This is the verse that we come to today, and we're going to talk about the detachment of Maharaj Ambarish. Savai Mana Krishna Paradavina Vasamchi Vaikunta Gunadavni Karoharo Mandira Marjana Shutam Chakaru Satkatoriam Om Ramalikayara Darshanam Dashu Tabirita Gatash Parshanga Shagamam Grihanam Chapada Sarojas Rabe Shimaturashi Rashanam Tarabita Paro Hare Chitra Padav Shunapanane Srioni Rishikesha Padara Bindere Kamam Chadasha Chita Kamayam Yatori Vshuka Janashriya. Maharaj Ambarish engaged his mind in meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord, his words in describing the glories of the Lord, his hands in cleaning the Lord's temple. Here it is in a nutshell. Take my life, Lord, and let it be consecrated to thee. Take my moments and my days, let them flow in ceaseless praise. Take my hands and let them move at the impulse of thy love. Take my feet and let them be swift and beautiful for thee. Take my lips and let them sing always only for my King. Take my mouth and let it be filled with messages from thee. Take my silver and my gold, not a mite would I withhold. Take my intellect, use every power thou shalt choose. Take my will and make it thine, it shall be no longer mine. Take my heart, it is thy throne. It is thine own, it shall be thy royal throne. Take my love, my Lord, I pour at thy feet its treasure store. Take myself and I will be ever only all for thee. Every sense as well as the mind fully engaged in the service of the Lord. And this is the definition of Bhakti. Bhakti is not something you do part-time. It's not something you do intermittently. It's not something you do half-heartedly. Real Bhakti, when it's fully blossomed, when it's fully awakened, fully matured, the nature of Bhakti is that it consumes every single faculty that you have. You do it at every moment with all the will and enthusiasm at your command. And whenever you see anybody like Ambarish Maharaj, like Jayan Vijay, like Prahlad Maharaj, who fits this category, your best interests are to help them, to get their favor, get their association, to follow in their footsteps, and not to oppose them or doubt them or criticize them in any way, shape, form, or whatsoever. Bhakti means, Bhakti is defined as sarvapadi vinirmuktam tatratrena nirmanam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktina. Sarvapadi vinirmuktam, giving everything, whatever is at our disposal, we give it without any reservation, the result of which is our whole existence becomes purified. Why? Because our senses are originally spiritual. You don't see with your eyes, you don't hear with your ears, you don't taste with your tongue, you don't smell with your nose, you don't feel with your fingers. You see through the eyes, you smell through the nose, you hear through the ears, you taste through the tongue, and you feel through the fingers. But the bodily senses are only coverings. They don't have autonomy in and of themselves. The dead body is lying there. The eyes are there, the ears are there, the nose is there, the mouth is there, and the senses are there, but there's no sensation. There's no seeing, touching, tasting, smelling, or feeling. It is the senses which adhere to the soul, which are original and primeval. When all of our senses are engaged, ourselves as individual, minute, infinitesimal souls, when we're engaged in the service of the master of senses, the source of all senses, that connection is called Bhakti Yoga. Yoga means connection, and the only really way that we can connect with the Lord is through the yoga of service and the yoga of devotion. Other people call themselves yogis. Look at Durvasa. Look at Durvasa. He was an accomplished yogi. He had all the yogic siddhis, traveling to other planets, making himself light, obtaining items from long distances away, influencing people's thought process, the ability to curse them and all their future generations. All of these yogic accomplishments Durvasa had. In fact, he's an incarnation of Lord Shiva, who is the most accomplished of all yogis, and yet he didn't recognize the sanctity of a pure devotee of Krishna. He didn't get the most important point of all scriptures. He didn't hear what the Lord is saying. Lay off, don't mess with my devotees. When you mess with my devotees, you mess with me. So out of it, so clueless was Durvasa that he went out of his way. Not only, he should have gone out of his way to avoid a disagreement with the devotee, but so clueless was this best of all yogis that he went out of his way to find and to imagine, to concoct a dispute with Maharaj Ambarish. And then, having come to a misdirected conclusion, having misunderstood that Ambarish was trying to insult him, then he went way over the top by trying to kill Maharaj Ambarish. This should show you the shortcomings of what normally passes for yoga. Evam haro bhagati pratilabdha vipra bhakta dravyadu palakabram alkantya bashpa kalayamanam tachapi chadav shanakir vyoktem. Most devotees, even if they are born in a family of dog eaters, but once they take up the purificatory process of devotional service and begin to engage their spiritual senses in the service of the Lord, they are considered to be the best of all yogis, no matter what their background is. Even if they don't have the yogi siddhis, they are considered to be the best of all yogis. Not only are they purified, but their whole family and all of their associates and even their generation and anyone with whom they come into contact all get purified in the association of pure devotees. Yad pada samsyasuda munyasham sadhyupanandiyapam shvadinyapinasevya. Sukadeva Goswami says in the first canto that the Ganges coming from the toe of the Lord purifies the upper, middle, and lower planetary systems. People who live on the bank of the Ganges and take bath there daily, they get purified of all their sins gradually in due course of time. The Ganges purifies gradually. However, pure devotees are better than the Ganges because they purify immediately. Just by seeing them, just by hearing them, just by serving their lotus feet, one can get freed from all the sins of so many past lives. There's none more powerful, there's no benedictory than devotees. Durvasa could have sought blessings from Maharaj. He could have bowed down and touched his feet. He could have cut him a little slack, and his whole life would have been favored. His whole life would have been full of blessings. But instead, he couldn't understand the significance of Maharaj Ambarish's devotional service, the stature of his yogic powers, his connection, the intensity of his connection with Krishna. And so he got the opposite. For 1 year, he's running, being burned on his backside, very, very undignified, running here and there, being singed on the backside. The only true yoga is that which connects you. A devotee chanting the holy names of the Lord purifies anyone and anything with whom he comes in contact, whereas a so-called yogi like Durvasa Muni, read my lips, cannot even purify himself. What's your choice? The yogi, the Brahmin, the self-satisfied scholar, or he who is connected, Sevanam Bhaktir Ujjate, that living being whose spiritual original senses are 100% tesham satata yuktaram, without any break, without any deviation, without any selfish desires, without any motivation or agenda. They're engaged selflessly in the service of the Lord. This brings us to the sixth quality of Maharaj Ambarish. We'll probably talk about this a little bit more tomorrow. Detachment. Vairagya Vija Nidya Bhaktinam Shikshartam Heka Parusha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Jare Kripambadi Yastadamamadye. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught the principle of detachment. Normally, detachment is defined by what it is that you've given up. That's how detachment is actually defined. One, what it is and to what extent one has given up material things and who has achieved a state where one lives without dependence upon normal material amenities. That's normally what we think of when we think of a viragi. On the other hand, a devotee is more detached than such an artificial renunciate, because a devotee uses the things of this material world for the honor and the glorification of the Lord. One time, back in the early days, devotees had started a business, incense business, still going on today, called Spiritual Sky. They worked hard at it. They had a factory in Culver City, and they had sales all over the country. And at one point, the Wall Street Journal did an article on the Spiritual Sky Incense Company of the Hare Krishnas. They had grossed $1 million that year. One devotee brought this article to Prabhupada. He showed it to Prabhupada, and then he asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, isn't this Maya? Isn't this Maya? Is this really something that devotees should be doing? Shouldn't we be chanting Hare Krishna? Why would we be making money and doing a business and keeping books and worrying about employees and all those things? And Prabhupada said, how can anything that makes $1 million be Maya? It's all for Krishna. It's all being used for Krishna. Brahmarpanam, Brahmavya, Brahmagno. Everything is spirit. Originally, everything comes from Krishna, so it's spirit. And when you use it in Krishna's service, it retains its spiritual quality. It's only when you shut it off and use it in the name of family, friends, country, that it becomes known as material. Otherwise, everything emanates from the Supreme Spirit, Krishna. And if you use it in the service of Krishna, then you become spiritualized, the items become spiritualized, the energy that you use becomes spiritualized, everybody who comes into contact with that becomes spiritualized, the income, should that be the case at your general ed, is used in a spiritual purpose, and the things for which the income is spent that are then turned around and used to expand the Krishna consciousness movement, that's all spiritual. So it's just win, 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 win. Why would you renounce things that could be used in the service of the Krishna? Why would you do that? Well, I'll tell you, because you're ignorant, because you don't know what's the most important thing in the mind of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is that one who engages what one has, not renounces it. It's almost an insult to Krishna. This is Krishna's energy. It's there so that we can manipulate it in a positive way. And you turn your nose up at it, you throw your head. Prabhupada gave the example of once that Vivekananda was famously portrayed pushing money away with his nose up in the air as if it smelled bad. Prabhupada said, devotees have a big smile on their face and they're pulling the money in. They will not take 1 penny for their own sense gratification, but they're very happy to use Krishna's energy to honor Krishna. Otherwise, what's it for? You have energy, you have manufactured products, you have implements for growing food for Krishna, raising flowers for Krishna, building temples for Krishna, decorating Krishna with jewels from the earth, and you turn your nose up at it. It's like turning your nose up at Krishna. So only devotees like Maharaj, Ambarish, are truly detached. The reason they're detached from matter and sense gratification is Rishikesha Rishikena Sevanam Uchate. They're getting so much pleasure from serving Krishna that they don't care to use wealth and influence and resources for their own pleasure. And I got to tell you, we'll finish up with this testimony on my part. By Bobby and I, and our friends like Govinda Dev and others that have supported us in this project, everybody has sacrificed to build 2 beautiful temples in Utah, tens of thousands of square feet of building, and maybe altogether, 35 acres of land. Imagine how much cars and house and we could have had for ourselves, how much sense gratification we could have had. Spending that money rather than Krishna could have spent on a house, a car, vacations, Apple vacations, all-inclusive resorts, you name it, personal items. But we're getting so much more pleasure. We have this Spanish Fork temple, especially. It's a beautiful palatial building on top of a hill, surrounded by, with the extra buildings, maybe 20 acres of land, just 3 miles from the busy interstate I-15 freeway, which goes to Salt Lake and Yellowstone, south to Vegas, Los Angeles, San Diego. We can't even imagine having such a place for ourselves. We get so much pleasure out of tending the deities, cleaning the temple, cooking for the buffet, receiving guests, showing them around, answering their questions, conducting the Sunday Peace program for the last 40 years. Every day is an adventure. Every day is deeply fulfilling because it's connected. Our senses are connected with the senses of the source of their senses, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when you do that, Prabhupada says there are 2 side effects. Attachment for Krishna has 2 side effects. One is that you're purified. You no longer want to run after the temporary things of this material world. You see the world for the limited world and the limited environment it is. If a devotee sees the material world, it is only as a shadow reflection of the spiritual world. Rather than try to enjoy and make a foothold in this material world, everything that the devotee sees and hears and smells and tastes in this material world excites him about going back home, back to Godhead, back to the real world. So no wonder they become detached from this material world. Their vision is that this is not the real world, but it's a reflection of the real world. And so everything I see in the material world excites me and can be an instrument, a utensil for getting back to the spiritual world. So one becomes purified in the process of devotional service and detached totally from matter, not artificially, but because of the strength of one's attachment from Krishna. And secondly, sarvapati vinir mukta. One no longer thinks of oneself in terms of one's body, one's family, one's ethnicity, one's gender, one's species. One simply comes to think of oneself, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhu Kavanai Shravanadi Sudha Chitikariya. I am eternally a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is the ultimate perfection of the living being to be engaged in the service of the Lord according to the orders of the spiritual master. Om Tat Sat. So we'll talk most likely tomorrow even more about the case of Ambarish Maharaj and his detachment. But I'm glad after somewhat of a hiatus to be back, and I'm so delighted to see that many of our followers or many of our listeners are back here. We've got Rob on Zoom for starters. We've got Brent, who was right there from the very beginning. Brent is a good listener, and because he's a good listener, he's starting to give some pretty good talks. Also, he spoke to about 135 people at the Salt Lake City Temple last Saturday. Govindadev, no, 2 Saturdays ago, and Govindadev apparently had a crowd of about 70 people last Saturday when he spoke. Probably when I go there next week, there'll be like 25. But anyway, I'm happy for Brent and for Govindadev. Shukshma is checking in from somewhere in the continental United States on one of the highways in some sort of a vehicle. She professionally drives new vehicles to showrooms all over the country. John Malik, every day an adventure, says John. And he also brings up the point that you can't pursue material goals and advance spiritually at the same time. You can't do both. Material desires, appetites, ambitions will pour water on the fire of spiritual advancement. So that's a good point, John. Ram Kishore, thanks for checking in. All glories to Prabhupada. Please accept my obeisances. Gary, Montana, nice to have you back. Nice to be reconnected with you. And Ram Kishore is giving a whole bunch of stars and hearts, as well as John Malik. It's a veritable 4th of July here right now. Govinda Dev. Love you, Govinda Dev. You're a prince among men. Manasa Ganga, busy there in Northern California, I believe, doing all kinds of wonderful paintings that have to do with the Krishna culture. By Bobby trying to do arti and listen to the class at the same time. We are perennially shorthanded here. We're perennially shorthanded here, which keeps us on our toes. On our toes. And Jean, thank you very much for joining us. Rob, are you still in shape with your takeaways, or have you gotten out of practice with that?
I think there may be a little bit rusty, but we'll see what we got.
Give
all
it.
Right.
We're all ears.
A devotee offended by Krishna is defended. Yoga without devotion is backward motion. Curb your pride. Curb your pride or be burned on your backside. Give up material attachment for spiritual advancement. Use the material to advance the spiritual.
Like that.
And
that's good. Yeah, it's profound. It sounds really simple, but it's very profound. Yeah.
Use money to please the Lord, not to build your hoard.
You're getting a lot of hearts. I know you're not on Facebook, but John Malik and Ram Kishore are also giving you a lot of likes here, thumbs up. You'll send those to me?
Yes, Prabhuji.
All right. I'll look forward to posting them along with the talk on Facebook, and it'll also be available on YouTube a little bit later on in the day. I'm very grateful to all of you for coming back after I was elsewhere for almost the better part of 2 weeks. But thank you. I'll be here tomorrow. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.